Hi, I'm Dory Lerner and welcome to another small but mighty story time at the National Civil Rights Museum. This time I'm actually sitting outside of the museum because I'm going to share a really special book with you where the young girl in the book actually comes to visit the museum as well. So everybody, the book we're going to read today is called Liberty's Civil Rights Road Trip. And I love that her name is Liberty because we all know the word liberty means what? It means freedom. So her name actually means freedom. So cool. So Liberty's Civil Rights Road Trip was written by Michael W. Waters and illustrated by Nicole Tadgell. And we'd like to thank Flyaway Books for their permission to share this book with you today. Liberty's Civil Rights Road Trip. Liberty woke up from a nap on the bus. Are we there yet, Mom? Not yet, said her mother. We have just a few hours left. Where is there again? Liberty asked. Her mom chuckled. The first stop is Jackson, Mississippi. Is Jackson where we crossed the bridge that you and Daddy told me about? Not yet. Not until Selma. I can't wait, said Liberty. I love bridges. Liberty turned and saw all the friendly people she'd met when they boarded the bus together in Dallas, Texas. Miss Rachel with her long locks sat next to Mr. Adam. Miss Alia sat in front of Dr. Glenn and near other new friends. The driver was Mr. Joe. Liberty's mom, dad, brother, and sister were on the bus, and so was her friend Abdullah and his family. Everyone was ready for their civil rights road trip. Liberty was glad Abdullah was with her. She always called him her cousin, even though they weren't related. They sat together playing games as hills, lakes, rivers, and trees passed by. A long time later, Abdullah asked, Mom, are we there yet? We're here, said his mom. Welcome to Jackson, Mississippi. The bus stopped at a small house, and everyone piled out. Liberty liked the house's aqua color, which reminded her of the ocean. Whose house is this? She asked. Miss Rachel said, Medgar Evers lived here a long time ago. He was a brave soldier in World War I and then later worked for black people to have the right to vote here in Mississippi. Here's a picture of Medgar Evers, everyone. My mom and dad take me with them to vote, Liberty exclaimed. Mine too, said Abdullah. After everyone had visited the house and heard more about Medgar Evers, the bus left for the next stop. As the miles passed, Liberty saw how the land had changed from dark brown to nearly red. Are we almost there, Dad? She asked. Yes, Liberty, we're here, said her dad. Welcome to Glendora, Mississippi. The bus stopped at a building Liberty thought looked like a giant metal barn. Her dad told her that this place had been a cotton gin where seeds were removed from cotton after it was picked. They were there to remember a boy named Emmett Till, whose death years ago had inspired many others to stand up for the rights of black people. Liberty was surprised that Emmett hadn't been much older than her brother. As everyone heard more about Emmett Till, Liberty and Abdullah curled up in their mother's arms. It had been a long day. The next morning, after a good night's rest, the bus rolled on. Soon, Mr. Joe announced from the driver's seat, We're here! Welcome to Memphis, Tennessee! As the bus stopped, Liberty saw a building with many matching doors, each with a different number. A large round wreath hung near the room number 306. It's right behind me, everyone. I'm sitting in the same courtyard where this illustration shows us. It reflects the same space where I am today. As everyone looked quietly at door 306, Liberty's mom told her that this was the place where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had been killed. Liberty felt sad when she remembered that Dr. King had had children who were just like her, and then she thought about what Dr. King had done to help bring people together. Her dad had told her about Dr. King's dream for a better day when everyone would be treated equally. Liberty liked the sound of Dr. King's deep voice. She heard it on a recording of his I Have a Dream speech. As everyone looked around, she and Abdullah took turns trying to sound like Dr. King. They couldn't help laughing, even though the Lorraine Motel was a very serious place. Liberty imagined that Dr. King had liked to laugh just like her dad did with her. See, there's a picture of Dr. King with his family. And there's a picture of Liberty with her family and her friend Abdullah and his dad. They're kind of like a family together, aren't they? Hours later, on the bus, Mr. Adam nudged Liberty and Abdullah awake. "We're here. Welcome to Birmingham, Alabama. We're at the 16th Street Baptist Church." As everyone left the bus, Liberty saw many stairs she could hardly wait to climb across the street from a park full of trees. "Can we go play?" said Abdullah. "Only after we pay our respects," said his mom. As they walked in, Liberty heard someone say that 4 girls had died at the church when a bomb went off a long time ago. She did not like that at all. "Who were those girls?" Liberty asked. "They were friends who went to Sunday school together, and they sang in the children's choir," said Mr. Adam. "I'm sure they liked to have fun together, but some people did not like that black people worshiped and fought for justice here." "No one should be hurt in a church," Abdullah said. "That's true, Abdullah," said his dad, "and no one should be hurt in a mosque, a temple, a synagogue, or anywhere." Later, as everyone went outside, Abdullah shouted, "Come on, Liberty!" They ran across to the park and climbed trees until it was time for the bus to leave. Liberty wondered if the 4 girls had played there together before Sunday school. The next day, the bus rolled on to another city. Miss Alia turned to Liberty. "We're here," she said. "Welcome to Montgomery, Alabama." "Whose house is this?" Liberty asked as everyone got off the bus in front of a small house with a large front porch. "When Dr. King was the pastor at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, this was his family's home," said Miss Alia. "They had some happy times here, but the porch still has a hole in it left by a bomb." Thankfully, everyone was okay. Even in danger, Dr. King and his wife Coretta didn't let anything stop them from helping others. Liberty and Abdullah knelt on the porch and put their hands into the hole. How had Dr. King and his family been so brave? Liberty wondered. The next day was the one Liberty had been waiting for. The bus rolled on and on. "Finally," she shouted, "I see it. There's the bridge." "Yes, we're here," said Liberty's dad. "Welcome to Selma, Alabama." The bus stopped near one end of the bridge. As everyone got off, Liberty said, "Tell me again why this bridge is important, Dad?" Her dad smiled. "A long time ago, brave women and men and children crossed this bridge as they marched from Selma to Montgomery. They wanted to send a message that the laws of Alabama should be the same as those across America, which said that every citizen could vote. Some marchers were hurt by police officers who thought black people shouldn't vote, but that didn't stop them. A few weeks later, they marched into Montgomery, 51 miles away. Black people can now vote in every state. The bridge is a symbol of everything people have faced to be seen as true Americans. It reminds us to be courageous as we work together to make our country better for all." Then he called out, "Let's march, everyone." Liberty and Abdullah grabbed the nearest hands as everyone began to cross together, just like the first marchers. As they walked, Liberty thought about all the places she had seen and the brave people she had heard about. Then she turned and looked behind her, just as she did on that first day on the bus. So many people, all different, traveling together. Liberty's dad looked around and said, "This is what America looks like." Liberty wasn't quite sure what he meant, but she liked how it sounded. Liberty smiled at her dad and said, "Maybe this is what love looks like too." When the road trip had started, she had only known a few people on the bus. Now they were all part of her family. She didn't know where they would travel next, but she knew that wherever they went together, love would take them there. So everyone, at the end of the book, we actually see the stops that they made on their civil rights road trip. And everybody, I was thinking, as an activity, you could create your own map of a civil rights road trip. So all you'll need to do is print off a map online, or you can just look at one on a computer screen or in a book, and you can draw a map of the United States and label some of the places that you would like to visit. I've done that with a map already. So all we need to do that is a map and then maybe a few crayons or markers to mark where we're going to go. I put that I would start in Memphis because that's where I am, and I would come to see the Lorraine Motel and the National Civil Rights Museum, a place that helps to remind everybody that they can be a change maker even today. This is a special place that keeps Dr. King's legacy alive and where we remember to commemorate all of the things Dr. King stood for. Because he didn't just spend his last moments here, but also this is a place where his legacy lives on, where we remember that he stood up for freedom and justice and peace and equality. And so you could visit other places that would remind you of civil rights heroes, like in Holly Springs, Mississippi, where Ida B. Wells' home is. Or you could go to Jackson, Mississippi, and see the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum and Medgar Evers' home like they did in the book. You could also go to Atlanta, Georgia, and see Dr. King's home where he was born. That's on Auburn Avenue. And you could go to the King Center or the Museum of Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta. And I marked on my map that I would also go to Birmingham, to the Civil Rights Museum there, and to see Kelly Ingram Park, as well as 16th Street Baptist Church. Kelly Ingram Park is where the Birmingham Children's Marches took place in May of 1963, and they were organized at 16th Street Baptist Church, that same church that was later bombed where the 4 little girls were killed in September of 1963. And then I also put on my map that I would go to Greensboro, North Carolina, because that's where the sit-ins took place at the lunch counters. And then on my way back from Greensboro, North Carolina, I might stop in Clinton, Tennessee, where the Clinton 12 integrated their high school in Clinton, Tennessee. So everybody, I drew my civil rights road trip on this map, but you could draw your civil rights road trip anywhere you want in the country. Look up some places that you'd like to go visit with your family and that you'd like to learn about the history that happened in those places. Draw it on a map, and hopefully one day you can take that trip with your family. We hope that you will come see us here at the National Civil Rights Museum to commemorate Dr. King and the millions of other people who have stood up for change throughout history. We thank you for joining us for another Small But Mighty Story Time. Again, I'm Dory Lerner, and it was great to see you today. Take care.